Welcome back to the Centered on Buffalo podcast. Our guest this week is Ariel Helwani, and he's best known for his sports journalist work covering the MMA and professional wrestling. He's been named the Journalist of the Year at the World MMA Awards every year since 2010. Pretty strong record there. He's also a massive Bills fan, so that's what we'll mostly be digging in on today. For all those who have been subscribing to the podcast on YouTube or anywhere where you get your podcast, thank you for doing that. If you haven't already, please do so. And also, please share this podcast. That goes a long way, spreading this podcast around, and I'm extremely grateful for it. Ariel, welcome on the podcast, brother.
Eric, my friend, it's great to talk to you. I was very excited when you texted me because if I'm being honest, and I hope you're okay with this, I am viewing this as somewhat of a therapy session.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I need it
Okay.
as well.
Okay. Well, I'm happy we're on the same page. It's great to talk to you as always. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure. I want to start off here. So earlier, maybe a couple months ago, you gave a shout out on a podcast appearance you were on, and they asked you what your favorite broadcasters were. And look, you're a very respected sports media member, so people respect your opinion on it. And you said Chris Brown, Sal Capaccio, and myself were your favorite broadcast crew. I just want to thank you for that because the radio guys often get, slighted in the national perception, and that's fine. We're not in front of the camera. We're, those guys are farther along in the career, whatever it may be. I just want to first off say thank you for that. That meant a lot to us.
And it was from the heart, honestly.
Mm.
They put me on the spot there, and I could tell for a minute they were unsure as to where I was going. I adore listening to you guys. WGR, shout out. I think in the interview I said 650, it's 550, but the truth is I'll just go on my phone and say play WGR, and then it'll play it
Right.
on the Odyssey app. So I don't need to like turn the dial. Obviously, I don't live in the Western New York area, but I will watch the games and then just listen to you guys. And sometimes I have to pause the game to match it up
Right.
because like the game will be too fast or whatever. And then when I'm, you have kids, I have kids. Sundays are a very busy day. I don't really mind just listening to you guys. You do a phenomenal job. And what I like most about you is that you obviously you want the Bills to win. That's very clear. And I want to hear that perspective, but I don't think you guys are homers. I don't think
Right.
that you are like over the top with it. I don't want over the top. I know where your allegiances are. I share the allegiances, but you guys, all three of you are supremely professional and really great at what you do. And I really do enjoy it. So I will miss you guys for the next whatever it is, 8 months or no, less than 8 months, 7 months or so coming up. But you really do a tremendous job, and that was from the heart.
Well, I really appreciate that. We try, we're coached to, talk about the Bills about 90% of the time. That's what our audience wants to hear. But I'll admit it if it's not if the Bills get away with a holding call, or if I truly think it's a bad call, I'll try and be objective because I want that to be an objective listening experience. But and I also try to avoid saying like we need a first down here, and I
I like
try to
that.
say the Bills. I also played for them, so it's a little bit different because even if I wasn't on the broadcast, if I was talking to friends, I would say we. And so I understand that there's some blurry lines when you go from the field, and 2 years later you're calling the games of the only team that you played for in the NFL for a considerably long time. So, but long story short, I appreciate those comments. And my wife does the same thing, pausing the TV and matching up the
Ah,
radio. The biggest thing we get is, one's ahead of the other, so it doesn't match. And I'm like, well, there's, nowadays with YouTube TV or whatever you're watching it on,
yeah.
you just pause one of them for a second and make it work. So glad to see that you're doing that as well. Real quick, how did your Bills fandom originally start?
Okay. I'm 42 years old. I grew up in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Um, I'm 8 years old when the Bills are playing the Giants in 1991, right? January of 1991, Super Bowl 25 in Tampa. And 8 years old, I'm just kind of following. I have two older brothers and a bunch of cousins and uncles. My two older brothers were Cowboys fans, and my uncles were Cowboys and Niners fans. 80s, 90s, they're all jumping on the bandwagon. And so we
Right.
went to one of my cousins' house to watch that Super Bowl, and I'm just like, I'm just going along for the ride. I don't really know what's going on, but I remember vividly the house. I remember the basement we were in. I remember watching that game without a rooting interest. And I remember while watching that game as an 8-year-old saying to myself, all right, I like these guys. I like this team. I like the Bills. I like the logo. I like, the Buffalo. I like their vibe. And I remember Thurman Thomas, who ended up becoming my favorite player of all time. I just remember the
Mm.
way he was running, and I remember the flow of the game. And then I remember Scott Norwood, and I remember vividly, like I can see myself sitting in the back seat, my dad driving us home. My dad, not a sports fan. He's an immigrant from Egypt, never liked sports. And I just remember sitting back there, feeling sad, feeling bad for that team, and saying to myself, that's my team. I want those guys to win. I want
Love
those
it.
guys to get it. And I'm all in now. And so at that point, I'm 8. I turned 9 in July of 91. Um, and I, this has been the case for my entire life. When I'm in, I'm in. And so I fell in love, and I like dove deep into the team. And so I remember vividly running up to my parents' bathroom after the Washington Super Bowl, bawling my eyes out. At this
Oh,
point, I'm 9. And then the next 2 years were absolute torture because who do we play? The Cowboys. And my older
that's your
brothers,
brother's teams.
ruthless, just absolutely ruthless. I'll never forget Don Beebe hitting the ball out of Leon Lett's hand, and that being my only moment. I remember exactly where I was when I watched that, and that being my only sort of moment, my proud moment. And I never will forget the next year when no one wanted the Bills to go back to the Super Bowl, and we were up at the half in Atlanta against the Cowboys the second time. And I remember exactly where I was sitting in my parents' house. And I prayed to God and I said, just please give us this one. I can't do this anymore. And then, of course, it didn't pan out. And I stuck with the team, and I was delighted when Doug Flutie came because I'm Canadian, so I watched him in the CFL. And back then there wasn't Red Zone, there wasn't NFL Sunday Ticket. I lived in Montreal. The Bills were a prime team in the AFC. It was on NBC. The NBC game of the week would usually be a Bills game. It would be Bills or Patriots, but the Patriots were really bad in the 90s. So I was getting all those games. I fell in love with that team. Thurman and Kenneth Davis and Cornelius Bennett and Darryl Talley and Bruce Smith and Jim Kelly, and on it goes. Keith McKellar, the K-Gun, all that stuff. And I stuck with them. And I remember, watching you guys celebrate when you were in the locker room when Dalton threw the pass and and
Yep.
and and the streak was over. And I've been a fan ever since. And I'm very proud to be a fan. And a lot of people are surprised. I've only been to one Bills home game, and that was a few years ago. And the great members of the team, led by Kelsey Sweet, who runs their digital social media department. I hope I'm getting her
Yep.
title correct. She invited me, and I decided for my 40th birthday that I would finally go to a game. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And one of the highlights of that experience was meeting you and
Yep.
meeting Steve Tasker on the field with my kids. I'll never forget it. And we beat the Steelers that day. Like, it was like 35-3. Josh had that incredible pass to Gabe Davis, that like the 95er.
Yep.
So anyway, as you can tell, lifelong till I die.
Yeah, that game, I was the legend of the game. And so I
Oh,
had to
yes.
sprint back up to the booth. And on the third play of the game, second or third play of the game, Josh throws a 98-yard touchdown to Gabe Davis. And I'm running into the booth as the crowd's going nuts. And I get to see the replay of it and acted like I was in the booth the
Uh,
entire time for that one. As I'm hearing your story, I don't think I need to ask you why you got into covering combat sports after some early years of rage covering you're following your Bills. But how cool is it that 34 years later, after you adopt the team, the Bills are putting together one of the coolest postseason hype videos ever, and it
man.
includes you and Michael Buffer. How awesome is that?
So that was Kelsey once again. It's funny because I used to tweet about the Bills all the time. I used to write about them. I used to talk about them on the show, and I never got an acknowledgement of any kind. And I was telling Kevin Clark about this, who is now with ESPN, formerly of The Ringer. We were colleagues at The Ringer, and I was like, man, I don't know if like, what did I do to the Bills? Like, why can't I just get like a thumbs up? Can I get a like? Can I get something, some sort of acknowledgement? And he mentioned it to someone, and all of a sudden, like one day, I got a DM from the Bills. I was like, "Holy crap!" I felt like I was talking to everyone. I felt like I was talking to Marv Levy, Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, Thurman Thomas, all at one. I was so excited that day, and they followed me, and it was great. And so we've developed this relationship. And she texted me a couple of weeks ago, it was a few days before that game, saying like, "Do you want to be a part of this?" I'm like, "Are you out of your like what? I don't deserve this. I'm not worthy of this." And I said to her like, "Does this mean like there's a chance the players are going to see this? Like like Josh Allen's going to see my face? Is this possible?" I'm very irrational with my love of the Bills. It's the Bills and Knicks for me, and I've never seen either of them win. And yeah, anything that I could do for either team, I would do. I would run there. And so yes, that was a huge honor for me. And then when it came out and all my friends were hitting me up because I didn't tell any of them about it, they're like, "What the hell is this? What is
Yeah,
going
it
on?
caught
Why
me
did
off
you tell
guard.
us?"
I hit you up immediately. I'm like, that
I
is
was like,
so cool. It was really well done too. It was awesome.
"Yeah, thank you. I
Really,
appreciate
really
it."
cool. Let's take a moment to hear from one of our sponsors, and that's Dano's Seasoning. With the big game coming this weekend, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Let Dano's be the one to help you impress your family, your friends, whether it's appetizers, barbecue, whatever you're putting on the grill, whatever you're putting out for food this weekend. Dano's Seasoning is going to make it better, and it's also healthy, so you're not going to spoil any of your dishes. Check them out at danoseasoning.com or retailer store near you. Yum, yum, get you some. All right, so obvious disappointment leaving that Chiefs game. It seems like a similar story. We're not in the Super Bowl. We're not in 4 consecutive Super Bowls, but we're, so many consecutive AFC playoff, just very similar fashion that it almost just continues to hurt worse. What are your lasting thoughts coming out of that Chiefs game?
Man, Eric, I got to tell you, like I'm still in pain, man. I'm still in
Mhm.
pain. I am in. I'm in a lot of pain. I can't watch. I'm not watching the Super Bowl. I can't watch any of the coverage. Anytime media day pops up, or I have no beef with the Eagles, and I don't have. God bless the Chiefs. Like I don't wish bad
Plus
upon
one.
anyone, but like I don't want anything to do with it. And man, it brings back the 13-second game, I'll never forget. I have 3 young kids and 2 boys, 2 older boys. They're now 12 and 10, and my daughter is the youngest. And I'll never my middle son is very much like me. I could see it, like he's the spitting image of me, and he tries to emulate me and follow all the things I follow, and I love it. And I remember him. So, the 13-second game was, if my math is correct, 2022, January of 2022. So
Yeah.
he's born in 14, so he's 8. And crazy enough, around the same time I fell in love. And I remember him sneaking out of bed and coming down for the fourth quarter. And I remember that touchdown pass to Gabe. And I remember turning to him, and I always get emotional telling the story, saying, "We're going to win the Super Bowl," because I felt like we were going to beat the Bengals in the AFC Championship game at home, and I wasn't worried about anyone on the NFC side of things. And it was, and I couldn't move after that game. And I felt really good going into this game, and it's bringing back the same feelings, because when we held them to a field goal, and I hope you don't mind as a player me saying we, but I know it's
No, no,
probably
you're
between.
good. You're
All
you're
right,
Bill's Mafia. You're
all right.
Bill's Mafia.
When we held them to that field goal, and because I thought they were going to come back and score, and I was like, all right, we're going to have to come back and score, and then it's going to overtime. I really, I didn't say it this time, but I was like, this is it. This is how it's going to end.
Yep.
Um, and Josh is going to lead us down, and he's going to score a touchdown, and we're going to move on finally. And it obviously didn't work out. And I have to say, man, I turned it off after the Pacheco first down, and I told my kids to go to bed, and it was so nice. And I try to be grateful and thankful that I'm getting to have these moments with my kids, because I could be a Browns fan, I could be a Jets fan,
Right.
we could be irrelevant at this point. And so I'm trying to hold on to that. And we didn't say a word, and I just walked out of my house, and I just went for a walk by myself. It's at this point 9:45 Eastern, 10 Eastern, and I was in so much pain. I felt like someone kicked me in the gut. I was in so much pain, and that pain has not gone away. I did laugh the next morning, and maybe you'll find some laughter in this as well. When my daughter woke up, one of the first things she said to me was, "Did the Bills win?" And she was like excited to find out. And she was there when Pacheco got the first down. And
Oh,
I was like, "No, of course they didn't win. Did you not see that?" And she goes, "How am I supposed to know? You turned it off with 40 seconds left." And I was like, wow,
love
the
that.
innocence of that, not really quite understanding what transpired, made me laugh for a moment. But yeah, man, I'm in pain, and I would love to know how you're feeling, because I can't shake it, because I really felt like this was it. And I just want one. I just want to know what it feels like on a cold night in February on a Sunday night, and you get to exhale and you see your team, and you see the confetti and you see the t-shirts and you see the hat, and I could see Josh holding that trophy. I could see the stage. I could see, Pagula holding it. I could see it. I could feel it. And it's just slipping away every time. And so, yeah, I'm in pain, and I would imagine a lot of fans feel the same.
Absolutely. And I would say the best way I can describe it is I'm gutted. You talked about getting kicked in the gut. Like, it's just like, it's deflating, and like, not to be immature about this. Like, I work for the team, I played for the team. It's just sports, but there's just so many guys in that locker room that I'm close to on the coaching staff, in the front office, ownership, people that work in the building, that work on the broadcast crew. I just feel like they all deserve the opportunity. And the product I felt like this was a year where physically the Bills were the better team. They were the best team in the AFC. The way they were built on their offensive line, the way Josh played this year, the way that, okay, if Josh has an off day, the run game can get you going. If the run game's not going, Josh can handle it with the pass game. I just felt like they were going to be able to outscore teams in the playoffs, and they almost did again. When that game started off very slow for the
Mhm.
Bills, 3-and-out score, and really, if Kansas City doesn't fumble that one on the shotgun snap, they probably score their first 4 possessions of the game. After the start of it, I almost felt like we are going to have to steal one here. And look, this is a defense that all year gave up yards. At times they gave up points, but they made big plays. No turnovers in the second half, but they forced back-to-back punts to start the second half. We get the lead, and when we had the ball up one, I thought Dalton Kincaid got the first down on third down.
Yes.
I don't blame McDermott for not challenging it, because on the season, you're 22 of 23 on QB sneaks. You can't risk a timeout and let the officials defend their previous decision and not give Kincaid the first down and blow a timeout in a close game. And then I thought Josh got it on fourth down. They still had opportunities to win the game. That wasn't, one play that defines it, but it was when they didn't get that one, I almost felt like it slipped out of their grasp. Like, okay, now we're going to have to steal it again. They regained control of this game. Okay, now we're going to have to steal it again because we're giving them great field position. And at Arrowhead, any mistakes, anytime the other team does anything similar, very similar to Highmark Stadium, it feels like there was 10 plays that went their way because the crowd is so loud, and it makes it just so much more difficult for you to operate on the offensive side of the football. I think Brandon Bean said it best. And we were texting back and forth, and he wouldn't mind me saying this, that the further you go, the more it hurts. And so,
Mhm.
yes, it's great to be a Bills fan. And I'm always telling people, like, enjoy the success, enjoy the regular season. We were 10-0 at home this year. How much fun is that? A Bills fan that went to all the home games never saw them lose in Highmark Stadium. How much fun is that? How many great memories? But the further you go, the more it hurts. And so there's going to be evaluations done this offseason like there is every year. The Chiefs are going to do the same if they win it all again. The Eagles, everybody's got to evaluate. When you look at this team, just from your vantage point, is there a piece? Is there a position? Is there a player? Maybe one that requested a trade this week that you figure the Bills should go after and target?
Yeah, there are several. I will just say, and look, I understand. I'm speaking from like the irrational fan perspective, and I know that you have relationships. I don't have those
No,
relationships.
and that's why I ask, because I value
Yeah.
your opinion.
Well, I appreciate that. The one thing that I do think that comes to mind off the jump, um, and it hurts me to say it. I do think to a degree, and again, I'm not the pro. I think to a degree we got outcoached, and that is a tough one to swallow because I felt you talk about those first couple series.
Yeah.
I felt like they were humming out there, like it was automatic, boom, 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 and they threw some things at Josh, and I don't know if we were not prepared. I don't know what it was, and then we could talk about the tush push and all that. I just I'm a big basketball fan, and in 2018 the Toronto Raptors, they kept losing to the LeBron James Cavs. They kept getting to either second round or third round. It's almost the exact same story.
Right.
Dwayne Casey won the Coach of the Year award in 2018. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to the Cavs. And they made a tough call, the Raptors, and they fired Casey and they promoted Nick Nurse. And then, of course, they made the deal for Kawhi Leonard and they won the championship in 2019. And so I would be lying if I didn't say right here, like, have they gone as far as they can go with this staff? I would just say that's one thought that comes to mind. And I'm not one of these. I remember the lean years. What Sean McDermott has done has been incredible. But I'm just being honest with you here. These are some of the thoughts that went through my mind in the aftermath of the game. I do think that we need to upgrade as far as wide receiver core is concerned. The fact that we made it to the AFC Championship game after losing Diggs, after losing Davis, with some unproven talent, some guys who a lot of people didn't want, is a testament to Josh and a testament to them. But I would love if we could beef that up. I know there have been some names thrown out. I saw T. Higgins. I don't know if that's possible. I don't want to talk about that dude from Miami. I don't want him on the team. I hate that guy. I'm just being honest. I'm an irrational fan. I'm allowed to say that.
I respect it.
I'll never forget this. No, thank you. Now he'll come on the team and I'll love him. But for now, I'm not asking for him. And then, Myles Garrett would be tremendous if that's who you're alluding to. Of course.
Yeah.
And I love Deion Dawkins. I love how he's just like, come join us, come rock with us. Of course, who wouldn't want him? So I think stopping the run has been a bit of a problem. I was terrified against the Ravens of Derrick Henry, and we saw what happened in that third quarter, and thank God we figured it out. And then against the Chiefs, they had success, and they've had success against us. And so I would say those are our big things. Shout out to the offensive line. They were tremendous this year, the way they protected Josh. I hate the fact that the last two plays, I don't know if they were caught off guard, the blitz. It was you got to tip their cap. You got to tip your cap to the Chiefs. What they did was amazing. And that's why I'm not salty about the first down, this and that. Like, I think, outcoached us, if I'm being 100% honest. And that hurts me to say. And so those are some of the things. I've always felt like our run game was a bit of a soft spot, or Achilles heel. No more. We've corrected that. The
dude.
three-headed monster is amazing. And I always felt like we couldn't get over the hump if we didn't have a better run game. Like, I love Devin Singletary. He was great. Zach Moss, great. But it just wasn't quite, look at back in the day. You had Thurman and you had Kenneth Davis, and it was an incredible 1-2 punch. And I feel like we have something like that now, and maybe we have a three-piece combo, if you will. So that's good. But, I would say off the top of my head, those are probably the two areas that I would like for us to improve.
Yeah. And you make a lot of great points there. To me, the biggest glaring thing, and again, like you said, it hurts to say these types of things, especially because I have relationships, and this isn't a shot at anybody, but you give me a Max Crosby or a Myles Garrett, and I'm not willing to mortgage the future completely, but I'm willing to mortgage part of it, because I just feel like whether it was the Cincinnati game against Burrow or the 3 times the Chiefs have knocked us out in the playoffs, that and I'm not including the AFC Championship game because that was early on, infancy stages of them getting to this point now. The 4 times that the Bills had a team that were probably capable of winning a Super Bowl, I felt like the lack of pressure on an elite quarterback is the reason they lost.
Yeah.
Simply, and a lot of that comes from not having a one guy that is a game wrecker. Okay, can you send a lot of attention to him? Maybe take him out of the game? Yes, and you compromise the rest of your offensive scheme. You get one less guy out in a pass route, sometimes 2 if you're chipping or keeping a tight end in. You're sliding the line over there. So now all of a sudden, Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau or Von Miller are all one-on-one on the other side. Now they can win. And so by not having one of those guys, I feel like has been a big part of our exits in the playoffs. And I think with McDermott and Bean's comments at their press conference at the end of the year when they said, you need a few difference makers on both sides of the ball, and then you could have the rest role players. They were talking about guys on offense, and they mentioned a couple on defense, but I think that's what they were alluding to, especially up front, especially kind of reading between the lines of some of the things that they said about the defense as well in their postseason press conference. Quick shout out to our podcast partner, Waterboy. Waterboy Hydration. I've been loving these packets. They have 4 times the amount of electrolytes as a liquid IV. They also have ones that add in theanine to calm you out, help with a little bit of anxiety. They also have ginger in there that'll help with any stomach issues. These things are great. Go check them out at waterboy.com/Eric Wood and use code Eric Wood for 20% off. Again, that's waterboy.com/Eric Wood and use code Eric Wood. You will not regret it. Have you tried these hydration packets yet?
No, but I'm very I'm feeling very like thirsty here, so it's looking great.
Okay. Okay, perfect. We're going to get you some sent. They're awesome. Clean product. Great. Friends of the show. NFL honors coming up tomorrow. Does Josh
Yeah.
Allen win the MVP?
He should. He freaking should, and I would love to see it, but it seems like the tea leaves are saying no. I'd love your opinion. He should. Look how many of. I mean, it was him and Deion Dawkins that got elected to the or selected to the Pro Bowl, and I think what was it 9 for the Ravens. Oh, by the way, he has a Hall of Fame running back, and I hate the fact that it has to be like if you make the case for Josh, you're kind of putting Lamar down,
Right.
but to me, honestly, Josh not on that team, we're not making the playoffs. And that is the definition of MVP. And he was superhuman and made so few mistakes. And I know no one cares, but played injured, all that stuff. And you look at the stats. Um, and I wish they would vote. Honestly, I wish they would vote at the end of the playoffs because I always feel like it should be the whole thing. And look what happened head to head, how we rebounded after the loss. And I think week 4, it should be Josh, but I'm not holding my breath. I'll tell you my theory, Eric. I think that there is a self-fulfilling prophecy about Josh Allen. I think that the pundits, the journalists, everyone out there thought that Josh Allen was not going to work out.
Yep.
Everyone, as recently as at the beginning of this year, what is everyone saying? He's the most overrated player. Like nonsense.
Yes.
And I think they still want to believe this, and they can't finally come to terms with the fact that he is the man, that he is the second coming of Peyton Manning or John Elway or someone of that nature. And so they can acknowledge Lamar because he's won it before and because he's incredible and he's been there, done that. But for Josh, I feel like they don't want to give him his props, and I can't quite figure out why. It baffles me because I freaking think he is a generational talent. He is unbelievable, and he deserves so much respect, especially given who he had around him. Most people were saying they were going to finish 3rd in the AFC East this year. 3rd, not make the playoffs behind the Jets and the Dolphins, and the Patriots were coming too. So if you consider all of that, I don't think he gets it, but I would love to see him get it, and I think he deserves it. And I'm very biased as well.
I'm biased as well. I also have Lamar Jackson went to the University of Louisville where I did.
Yeah.
15 feet away from me is a signed Lamar Jackson jersey hanging on my wall from him. So I say this, I love Lamar Jackson like a brother, but they set a precedent last year that stats did not win the MVP award. Wins did. Josh had more wins this year with arguably less talent. People in Baltimore would say, well, look at our offensive line compared. Regardless, most overrated player in the NFL. And then he goes out and has those stats. He also played the equivalent of 2 games less than Lamar Jackson of snaps because of games that they were winning by so much. And they rested him in week 18. They did not rest Lamar Jackson in week 18. Actually, they padded stats in week 18 against the Browns team that was ready to completely fold. And I could go on and on. The fact that Josh Allen this year set an NFL record for the least amount of percentage of plays that resulted in a sack, fumble, or interception goes completely untalked about, but everyone wants to show passing yards, rushing yards, interceptions, touchdowns. Well, Lamar actually had more turnovers than Josh on the year. They just never show the fumbles in those graphics as well. And so I could go on and on. I'm with you. I hope Josh gets it tomorrow night. I do. I honestly do.
Wow.
And I have not checked out the latest betting odds on it. Have you?
No, I haven't. But after those all pro numbers came out, I was like, all right, everyone's saying, so I'm going to trust these people. But wow, I honestly, I took it out of my mind. Like I thought it would be an amazing way to end this season, and it would be some small consolation. I kept telling myself, just get the Super Bowl MVP. Who cares about this one? Now, of course, my tune has changed. But okay, now you're giving me hope again. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, 2 quick ones.
No problem.
1, who's your Super Bowl pick for this weekend? I know you're not going to watch, but who's your pick to win it?
I want the Eagles to win just because I'm tired of these dudes, man. I'm so tired of them, and I'm a salty fan. I'll acknowledge that. So, great story with Saquon. I thought they should have beat them a couple of years ago. Jalen Hurts seems like a nice guy. I hate Philly. I hate Philly fans. I hate everything about them. Good riddance. Enjoy your game, and I can't wait for it to be over. I wish I could just fast forward to Monday morning so all of this could just be over and we can move on to the offseason.
I'm with you. I'm with you. All right. Do you have any locks for UFC fights this weekend coming
Ooh.
up for the listeners?
Okay, so it's UFC 312. It's in
Yep.
Sydney. It's Dricus Du Plessis defending his middleweight title against Sean Strickland, and Zhang Weili against Tatiana Suarez for the strawweight title, which is an incredible fight that isn't being talked about enough. Ultimately, I think DDP beats Sean Strickland again. He beat him in January of last year. It was a very close fight. I think it's not as close. I don't know if he stops him. I think he might stop him in the fourth or fifth. He has an amazing gas tank, and I just think he's a better fighter at this point. And so I think the champ retains. He is the favorite. Co-main event: Zhang Weili is the underdog as champion, just the second time in her UFC career. Tatiana Suarez is an incredible talent. She was my comeback fighter of the year last year, but I think the champ is a live dog. And so if you want to take a flyer, look towards Zhang Weili.
Dude, the way you rattle that off, there's
Do the
there's
same.
it
You
it's
do the same.
that's true, but it's not an accident that you were since 2010 MMA journalist of the year. So I loved hearing that. Thank you for that information. Ariel, thank you for coming on the podcast. Always great catching up with your brother. Love
My
you,
honor,
man. That
honestly.
was
The fact
awesome.
that a former Bill and a current member of the broadcast team wants to even talk to me is absurd. If you would have told me many, many moons ago that this would happen, I would be, fainting. So thank you. And again, congratulations to you and the whole team on an amazing year. And Eric, one day we will celebrate that big one. We will toast some champagne, and I can't wait for it. It's going to happen. I believe it with all my heart.
Yes, we will. I appreciate that, brother.